Hello, why am I wearing this? You may be asking. It's because today is a very special day. Today is the 1 year anniversary of me living in my own apartment by myself for the first time ever in life. If you have never seen me or met me before, I spent 14-ish years in a cult, met and married my ex-husband there, had a baby. And just last fall, I got the keys to my own apartment. And yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what that's been like. I wanted to make this video because one thing that I'm finding out since I have joined the club of separated and or divorced women is that there is so much fear with women who are in this stage of life, and rightfully so. Honestly, there is a lot at stake. You have to be very careful with what you say online or even to friends or family. Anything, it's going to sound corny, anything can and will be used against you, whether formally with paperwork, whether just to make your life extremely difficult and stressful. Not just speaking from my experience, but I've been a listening ear for many. And so this is just, there's not a lot of us who are in the position to be able to speak out. Even myself, I won't be sharing everything for a couple of reasons. I like to be very careful with what I share. It's difficult being a content creator and figuring out what you're comfortable sharing with the world and what you'd like to keep close to your chest when you have a child involved, what's appropriate to be out there, or what are you, not necessarily appropriate, what are you comfortable with being out there, like as I figure out how I want to share things and if I want to share things, you guys will get more information. But this point wasn't about that. This point was about other women who could use this type of information, this validation, this type of content, but there's just not a ton of it because it's scary, to say the least. I also am making this video because I just want to provide some education, some information. A lot of women are maybe feeling unhappy or stuck or like there's not an option. But again, it's scary to even ask those around you sometimes questions or to share what you're thinking, that you're not feeling so great. And you might not even know where to start and all sorts of things like that. So just information, education, validation, and I did not want this to be a cheesy thing, but inspiration. I know when I was considering, do I want to do this? Can I even do this? Is it okay? I scrolled so much social media. I watched so many videos, so many Instagram reels, so many YouTube shorts, so many TikToks of women from all walks of life, women who were in it, women who had just recently gotten separated or divorced, women who have been out for years. And it just really, really helped. And so I just always felt like if I were ever in a position to add to that scrolling binge rabbit hole for someone to help them to get the courage to do what's best for them and or their children, I want to do that. It's kind of like paying it forward. So now that we've talked about why I want to do this, let's talk about why I'm not doing this. Or reason. Let's talk about what this video is not. This is not a tell-all. I'm not spilling all the details. I'm not going on and on about the whole story. Then he said this, then I said that. I was like, and then could you believe, like, it's not going to be that at all. There are some key points we're going to hit and we're going to keep it moving. This is not a bashing session. This is not really about my ex. This is my story, what I think would have been helpful or inspirational for me. And lastly, this is not at all a glorification of divorce. Do I think divorce is a valid option? Yes. Do I think it's good for people to persevere and try to make things work with someone that they exchanged vows with and promised to stick things out with? I do. But after a certain amount of time, after a certain amount of effort, when certain dynamics are in place, I think it really could be best for people to decide to go their separate ways. It's unique for every couple, every individual, every circumstance. I'm not saying, everybody get divorced, but if people are unhappy, sick, depressed, feeling humiliated, feeling taken advantage of, feeling caged, then it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Reclaim your life. reclaim your life. You can and you should. You should not have to settle, not necessarily settle for a person, but just settle for anything less than amazing happiness if you don't have to. So here you have me on October 2nd last year, 2024. And this is what my living room looked like for like 2.5 months until I got money to be able to furnish my apartment. It was just that one chair. It was that one chair, and I had a fold-out chair, like you take out to sit beside the field at soccer events or whatever. I had one of those that my mom actually got me when I was in high school, and that's all I had. I had that, and I had a full-size bed that was gifted to me, gifted to us by some friends for my son. And so when he would come visit me, we would just sleep together in that full-size bed in his room. And when the movers dropped all the things off at my apartment, the head of the team looked at me and asked, "Where's all your stuff? When's your stuff coming?" And I just kind of shrugged and said, "You can't put a price on peace." And she just said, "That part." And so you'll see that little chair right there in this video clip. And it's so funny, that's where my TV is now. So I loved all the natural light, but this was me taking it in. The lighting and the angle, it's terrible. But that's my space. Empty, but all mine. And it has been so much fun over the last year decorating my place. Thank you to everyone and anyone who got me something off of my Amazon wish list, my little gold froggies, my meditating frogs, and my rose gold colored trash can for my bathroom, and my mugs, my I was going to say coffee mugs, but I always drink tea out of them, that look so beautiful. They have elephants on them. That reminds me of my mom. And it says "walk in peace" on the inside, because that's just what I wanted for my space, was just peace for myself, for anyone who visits, to feel like they can rest and they can breathe here. After growing up with a narcissistic mom and then joining a cult and ending up in a marriage that I feel like was designed around someone that I really wasn't. It was like a cult version of myself. I wanted a place where I could just be. And so that's been really fun, even for friends to come over and say, "Whoa, I didn't know you were this vibrant," because the vibes are totally different than the house I was living in before. I know the title says, "I left a cult. I left my husband." I feel like it was a very mutual parting. Apparently the narrative is I left because I initiated the conversation. That's fine. But since I did initiate the conversation, I will take that, I guess. I'll take that. Even though he just said, "Yeah, makes sense." Like, I can see that because we had tried so many things. But anyway, to segue into the point is, how did I know? Yes, I'm looking at my notes. How did I know that it was time? And I think just, again, through enough meditation, talking with friends, we met with a cult specialist, connecting dots and looking at patterns and just seeing. I know when I initiated the conversation, I said, "Hey, we've actively been going at this reconciliation for like 9 or more months now. And it seems like the more we lean into our authentic selves, the more strife there is." And I just didn't want to keep going on that path. And then we wake up and it was another 9 months, then another 9 months, then another 9 months. Also, there were physical signs. I was having literal heart and chest pains. That was not good. I had those same heart and chest pains after Asha and I started the ICOC cult series. I was so stressed by the response and just the thoughts of what everyone was saying. That died down. And then when I was focusing more on our relationship, certain interactions or certain thoughts or things like that would make that same constricting heart feeling, and I'm no stranger to anxiety, but I had never felt that before. Also just thinking about, and it's similar again to how I realized I needed to leave the cult, was after certain interactions, I don't like the person that I am left being while I'm interacting with my son. I'm not happy. I'm not vibrant. I'm not energetic. I'm irritable. I'm tired. It's just hard. And I just thought, I can't do this. And then just noticing more and more too, that like, I don't feel like this person really enjoys me as who I am. And that goes back to how we got in this relationship, which was being in a cult. He nor I were our authentic selves. And when we looked at it, I think we both agreed that if we met while we weren't in a cult, like we may have dated, but we probably would not have gotten married. And so that it's hard. It's really, really hard. It was really, really hard, because the cult had taken so much from me already. Like, I changed my major for the cult. I cut off best friends. I cut off relationships with my biological family. Um, just so many different things. It took hobbies from me because they didn't align with the cult's highest purpose and values. And so then to realize, like, even my dream of being married, I had dreamed of being married since I was a small child. I always envisioned being married, but never having kids. Imagine that. Like, so even realizing this marriage that I thought was this fairy tale, like, wow, when everyone else in the cult was kind of tearing me apart, this man found value in me. When I realized that was crumbling down, I was so angry. If we didn't have to sell that house, there were so many times where I was just sitting in that house by myself, where I just wanted to smash the walls in, like, like, livid. Like, I just wanted to take a hammer. I wanted to take a big silver pot and just bash the walls in, tear the pictures off the wall. Not that there were many pictures on the wall. I wanted to destroy it because it just felt like this was all a lie. I wanted to call up every ICOC leader and tell them, you ruin people's real lives, and real children are brought into this. It was hard, but that's when I knew, like, I just can't keep pretending. It's impacting my health and it's impacting my son. And so how did the talk come about, right? Like, then you think, how do we do this? How do we do this? How do we do this? And I just realized, you know what? I'm not going to do a big sit down. I'm not going to make it a thing, because then it's hard too. If you think, oh, I'm going to do it at this day, at this time, then, what if that's a good day? And so I just kind of resolved to myself, the next time a conflict happens where I feel this certain kind of way, or I get talked to this certain kind of way, I'm just going to say, you know what? I think we've done our best, and this is the end of that. And I think I resolved on an evening. I think it was July 18th, and the very next morning, July 19th, we had a disagreement, and I was just like, okay, well, I think that we should separate. I think that we should separate. And now a lot of people would ask, like, are you separating just for space or for divorce? Yeah, we had so many conversations and talked about so many different things that when I said that, even though the word was separating, we knew it was to initiate the divorce process. And in the state of Virginia, if you have a child, you need to be separated for at least a year before you can actually file divorce. And so I said, I think we should separate. And that just essentially meant, like, we're done here. And initially after, I felt very relieved. I felt so relieved. But right on the other side of that relief is just devastation, shock, stun. Like, there's relief that it's done. I don't think not for 1 millisecond, ever regretted it, because we had tried so much. Like I said, we tried 1 or 2 different therapists. They were not helpful. And I said, if we're not going to spend the money on a cult specialist, I don't want to do this, because it's just a very, very particular circumstance to be in, and you need people who know about that. We had several sessions with a cult specialist. I had planned a date or 2. We went out of town together, just tried all these different things. And so when we decided, I didn't feel any regret, because I didn't think there was anything else I could do. We had really, really given it a shot. And I will say, I appreciate that even when I said, we need to go to a cult specialist, or I'm not doing this, he was very willing. He said, you know what, whatever we need to do to get this the best shot, like, let's shell the money out for it. So I'm grateful for that. And, you just go and you collect information, you see how things go. And so, yeah, but there was shock, devastation. Like I said, even though I didn't regret it, there's just still this feeling of, like, it's over. It's done. All of that. And then it's the death of a dream. it's not just the end of a relationship. For so long, I had a good idea of what my forever was going to look like. We had just purchased almost an acre of land the previous December. There was a family business and connections and security, financial and job security for sure. But I was kind of dying physically, so many stress symptoms, but like depression as well, and just my personality, um, my joy. I always felt like I wasn't enough. I'm not fun. I'm not exciting. He's very much an extrovert, and between cult stuff and parenting and work and me just being an introvert, I want to sleep. I want to lay down. I want to watch TV. And I always felt like I was just kind of, the old ball and chain, Debbie Downer, the wet blanket. And that nobody deserves to feel that way. And likewise, I didn't like him feeling like, well, every time he comes home, I have something else I'm not happy about because he went out and I was home and I wanted him home with me. No, I don't like feeling like somebody doesn't want to come to me because I am, nagging them. I don't want to be a bother. You can go live your best life. Go have fun. I don't want to go. And so as much as I didn't feel fun, I didn't like feeling like I made him feel like he couldn't win either. And so, yeah, the heart pain was gone, but so was my appetite for months. I think from right after we had the conversation till maybe December. So July to December, maybe November. I think I was eating like 1.5 meals a day, sometimes just one, maybe sometimes just snacks. And I was walking miles and miles and miles, probably the first month and a half or two. I know I wore this one trail out just to get all this anxious energy out of my head. And out of my body. And I needed to get into my head and listen to my own voice and spend time with myself and be sure and talk to my friends, leaving messages. Plug the Marco Polo app. This isn't sponsored. Marco Polo, you want to work together? Shoot me an email. But yeah, just so much talking to them, listening to music, just being in my thoughts, going to the beach, my happy place. I lived by the beach, like a 4 or 5 minute drive from the beach from 2016 to 2023. And I did not go to the beach often until last summer. I didn't have the time. And when I would technically have the time, I'd just be too exhausted. So I took advantage of a lot of beach last year laying out too. And I'm just so, so grateful for my friends. I was leaving them a message earlier today, just saying like, thank you so much for all the times you were there watching and listening as my heart was breaking in real time, a zillion times over again, just as I had like different realizations and then helping me piece it back together. I, first of all, don't know if I would have made the decision without them. And second of all, don't know if I would have followed through and how I would have survived. One of my good friends helped me because my thought was like, well, what about our child? Like, how are they going to be? How are they going to handle this? Should we just stick together? And that was an older school of thought, but there's actually research that has come out for anyone who is curious that says it is much better for a child to experience 2 happy, healthy homes than be forced to stay in one where they're witnessing dysfunction and their parents not being their best selves. Fortunately, I think we did a good enough job kind of keeping adult conversations between adults 99% of the time. There was one time where I like lost my cool and shouted while he was within earshot, and I just cried afterwards because I was like, I never wanted that. I never wanted that. And that was another thing that was like, oh, this is getting out of hand. And I knew that the time was ticking down because I was like, you can say a lot of things. You cannot say I'm not a good mom. And so we did such a good job at keeping those things away from our little one that when we separated, there was just some confusion because they were like, but we're fine. Okay. So anyway, yes, just back to the point of thanking my friends. I don't know, that was an ADHD segue. Speaking of segue, I want to talk about what in my head I have called the Divorced Baddies Club. What is the Divorced Baddies Club? I don't know if this exists anywhere else. I haven't heard it. It's just what I came up with in my head. There's like this club, there's this network of women that exist that you don't know about until you open your mouth and say, I'm going through a divorce or something like that. And then they'll be like, oh, girl, I've been there. I've been there. And they are usually stunning. They're stunning, they're well groomed, they're happy, they're witty, they're helpful. And I'm just so happy. My divorce is not final yet, but I am on my way to being in the Divorced Baddies Club. Divorced Baddie Shimmy. Okay, just a little commotion for the dress, a little Divorced Baddie Shimmy. If you are a divorced baddie, could you please just leave a little dancing emoji in the comments? Listen, I bought this dress and I don't go many places to wear it. So I wore it for my birthday and I'm just trying to put it to use. We're celebrating today. But even though Divorced Baddies Club is kind of a cute name, to me, it symbolizes something so much deeper. I have really felt so much more connected to like this undercurrent of sisterhood that is in society that doesn't get talked about a lot. And I'm not sure if I want it to be or not, because I just love that it exists. Like I have been helped and carried along by so many women, and not even always continuously. It's just kind of like an each one reach one, each one teach one. Like, is there someone in my path right now that I can impart wisdom to, that I can give a little kindness to, that I can, click a little button real quick to help them out, and it's not really going to hurt anybody, and it can be scary. I definitely was raised in what stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in this house. Don't tell everybody your business. Nobody cares, Nikita. Everybody just got to do everybody's just got to do their job. Like, just say what you need and move along, take responsibility. But when you find yourself in certain situations that you will, as a woman, if you were in a conservative space, it's just hard to keep it together. There was one point last year where I was telling my friends, I'm just so tired of crying in front of strangers. I'm so tired of crying at cashiers, with secretaries, because you're doing these things, you're sleep deprived, you're exhausted, you're frustrated, you're confused, you're getting shocked possibly multiple times a week, and you just don't know what's going on. You're frustrated. There's so many things that you're having to do that you never had to think of before, because my husband handles that. I don't know, I'm just a wife. And now you're out and you've got to figure it out on your own. And it can just be a lot. And sometimes service people can be kind of cut and dry, which makes sense. They've got a lot of people to help. But when you stop and you have a moment and you're just like, I'm just so sorry. Things are hard right now. I'm going through a divorce. I don't know what this is. Could you please explain it to me? And then the amount of people who softened towards me and helped me, who encouraged me, who explained, I was like, could you just please explain it to me like I'm 5? This is embarrassing, but I've never had to do this. Like, just the kindness that is shared in those moments has really, people suck and society is on fire, but interactions like that do give you hope. And you're like, wow, there are some really decent people out here. And, I can keep going. I can do this. I just learned a new skill. And so that has been really helpful. And there are a lot of divorced baddies who have had that moment with me. On that note, let's talk about some of the things that I did do for the first time. There's going to be so much shimmying because I made it a year. We celebrate. It's crazy to think that in an alternate universe, a year ago, I was unpacking seasonings. In an alternate universe, a year ago, I didn't have this. I didn't have this chair I'm sitting in. I didn't have this blanket. I didn't have this dress. I didn't have these earrings. I didn't have this nose ring. I didn't even know how to do this makeup. I didn't have the foundation on my face. Like, so much has changed. So much has changed in a year. So let's talk about what else I've done in the last year. In the last year, and this might be super small to a lot of you, but remember, I went from being in my parents' house to college in a cult, living with roommates, and then married, and was so happy to just have somebody do other things for me because it was a struggle trying to keep up with the rat race that was being a single working woman leader in a cult. Go watch my other videos if you're curious about that. Anyway, so I set up my own phone line. I have a phone in my very own name. That is cool. I did that. I changed my license plates. I was going to say all by myself. I think I did one by myself. Then I had to change another, and I was struggling, and this old man was walking by, and he helped me, and I let him, and that's fine. I decorated my own place, chose the decor, and I never, ever thought that I would be good at interior design, like home decor, things like that. But everybody who comes over, and I have some honest friends, but they're like, oh my God, I love it. And so that feels really good. I've kept up with my car maintenance, so that is cool. Well, for the most part, I mean, it's good. I've done a better job than what I thought I could do before, especially when it was my ex who was always telling me, oh, we got to do this, or we got to do this, or he was just doing it. So yay me. Because I was always so tired and exhausted, I was really scared about if and how I would be able to handle overnight potty accidents from our little one. But I have survived a few. He doesn't wet the bed much, but I have survived a few, and I've gotten up and changed the sheets and washed the child, and we get back in bed, and no fuss, lots of kisses. They're embarrassed, and I'm like, accidents happen, it's okay. And we get back in bed, and I get up the next day and I survive. Because that was a big worry. Like, man, if I'm this tired when I live in a house with help, like with the other parent, how am I going to do on my own? But it's been fine, even better, honestly. I think because my existing doesn't stress me out so much. On that same vein, token, whatever, parenting a child who's sick by myself. Now, I am fortunate. My ex and I, we did decide that we would live close to each other in case our little one got sick, or they forgot something, or they missed one of us, that we would not be far. And so there have been a couple times that they've dropped something off or things like that. And so that has been good. But like the overnight, the checking, the listening to the breathing, the taking the temperature, the all of that, like the day in, day out, I've done that on my own a couple of times, and I survived. All things that I wondered, if I'm by myself, will I be able to do this? Will I be able to do this? Like, is it worth it just to stay, just to have some help? But you cannot underestimate the impact of just feeling weighted and stressed and insecure and whatever you're feeling in your relationship, how much of a toll that takes on you. You're capable than more than you think. I have set up my own LLC. I got my real estate license. I've been on a couple of dates, not too many, because it's crazy. It's crazy out there. No, thank you. No, thank you. Leave me alone. Thank you. But I did do that. And I have created and gathered around me a very, very supportive community. And that is irreplaceable. I'm so, so grateful. And it just touches my heart because I've just received so many messages over my life that I'm just selfish and manipulative, and I'm not a good friend, and also that I'm boring, and just so many things. And so it's just nice to see that there are people who like me. And I just don't think I've felt very liked or likable for a lot of my life. But that could be because I've never really allowed myself to just be me. I've been being me, and turns out a lot of people like it. And the people who don't tell me, and they don't stick around, and that's fine, because the people I don't like, I don't tell them, and I don't stick. We just live separate lives. You see how easy that is? You see how easy that is? If you don't like someone, that you don't have to tell them all the time. You can just be apart from them. So in my world, I am so likable. I'm so lovable, and I'm so fun. And I think everybody deserves to live a life like that. If you're not hurting anybody, find your people. Stay near people that feel like sunshine to you. What is the harm? Literally, if you're not hurting anybody or endangering yourself, what is the harm? Now, before I wrap up, I thought, do I have any advice that I would give anybody who's thinking about making the leap? And honestly, my first thought was no, no blanket advice that I could give on the internet because every situation is so unique and it's so delicate and there's so many moving parts. But then I thought deeper, and the main advice I would have would be to listen to yourself and to love yourself and to prioritize yourself, your health and your happiness, however that looks, and to know everything is figure outable. In this world, we get to choose. We get to choose. There are so many different systems in place, and like there's so much rhetoric that makes you feel like it's supposed to be this certain way, but it really doesn't. It really doesn't. There are people who live out of RVs. There are people who homestead. There are people like, I don't know, there's just so many unique ways to live and survive and find happiness. You just have to be willing to take the plunge. Like last year, I cannot tell you, there was so much anguish. There can still be a lot of anxiety, but we're not talking about the anxiety today. We're talking about the celebration. Sorry, you have caught me on a really, really unhinged moment, but we're talking about the celebration. So if you can be willing to endure the part that is falling apart, and that's just what I said often last year, like, I know things are falling apart so that they can come together and rebuild, but it just really, really sucks while you're still in the falling apart phase. But you just gotta, I hate to sound this way, but like, remember your why. And if you have one or two solid people, keep them close. Keep them close. And if people show you they're not solid, get them away. I guess maybe I had more advice than I realized, but get them. You don't need that. You don't need that. And there are a gazillion people in the world, a gazillion people, and the internet gives you access to them. There are so many people waiting to love you and celebrate you and build you up, and you will not have the time or the bandwidth to form valuable connection with them if you keep obsessing over the people in your ecosystem, your little bubble that you're trying to get out of. So that's it. I guess those are just things to keep in mind, but specific advice. Here's my email address if you have any questions. The one downside of being a content creator who talks about very sensitive things like this is that I don't get a lot of engagement, public engagement that the platforms acknowledge. Why? Because it's scary. We can't comment on these things. We can't like these things. We can't share these things. And so I get it. I get it. But if you want to email me, you can. Now, please hear me out, because I'm still in the thick of it as well. And I have ADHD and there's a lot going on. If I don't get back to you, it is not because I don't care about you. It is not because I don't care about you. I'm very grateful and I'm very touched. If you ask a question, I will do my best to get back to you. But if it's just like, thank you so much, like, I'm not ignoring you. It's not that your thank you was not special. I ooh and ah and gush over all of them. I love them, but I am just forgetful. So please have grace with me. And then if your feelings are hurt, or you're like, hey, I wanted to respond, just email me again to bring it back to the front of my email. Like, hey, Nikita, did you see my email? And I'll be like, oh my God, I forgot. Thank you. So before I let you go, I just wanted to show you this video of me driving away from the marital home for the last time, following the moving truck to begin my new life. You. There it is. There's our aunt. She sold her house. She hooked us up. She's part of the Divorce Baddies Club. And goodbye. Had no idea what kind of adventures, what kinds of mountain tops and valley lows I was going to experience, but I am 1 year stronger, wiser, richer, happier, freer, more experienced than I was then. And I'm wishing the same for you. And, you know, if you can relate, put your date in the comments or in my email, and we can do a little virtual shimmy together, okay? Don't forget to drop those dancing emojis. Like, comment, subscribe, share all the things. Bye.